This one is for Massive Turnip. Well, Massive Turnip, you got a great handle there. He references the fact that I have experience with being violently knocked down and asks the question as to what my opinion is on windows in hulls. Short answer is I don't like them. I do understand they bring light and something more interesting than the ceiling of a hull, into the boat. And modern boats are really designed for people to spend sort of coastal cruising and weekending, and a little visual on the inside of the boat that's more interesting than just the wood paneling. As the ceiling on the boat is probably more interesting, but the naval architects are not putting windows in hulls because they are better for structural strength, obviously. So it's a concession that's made to people, sometimes wives, to help sell, the boats. But they're not stronger than the fiberglass hull itself. Patrick Lane, who I think everybody knows I just sailed around Cape Horn with, had a Bavaria 40, and he was telling me on the trip that he had nothing but problems with those windows. They were in the forepeak, as in the forward cabin V-berth type situation, and they leaked. They were not opening ports; they were just windows, embedded in the hull. And he said that he tried everything, recorking them, reseating them, and just never got a satisfaction. They constantly leaked for him and got the bunk wet, and just were all around just a horrible idea. I share that sentiment. I don't think that the visual attributes is worth the structural price you pay for them. I remember years and years ago, a friend of mine, way back in Newport Beach, the Orange Coast College folks had inherited Alaska Eagle, and Alaska Eagle was their workhorse for 30 years maybe, taking people out from Newport to Hawaii up to Seattle back. It's sort of sail training vessel. But Alaska Eagle was originally built by Houseman in Holland, Royal Houseman, as Flyer. It was the original Flyer. And Flyer, for anybody who knows anything about around the world sailing, was Connie van Richthoven's boat, 65 feet long, and it won the Whitbread Round the World race, I think in 1977, 78, I think that edition. And then Connie had a second Flyer built that also won the Whitbread. But anyway, after he won the first with the first Flyer, he sold it to a chap in Alaska, renamed Alaska Eagle. I don't know why I'm telling you all the background here, but the long and the short of it was, it had a window in the bottom of the hull, so that when racing, you could see if there was kelp that was caught on the either the propeller shaft and the leading edge of the rudder. And when they went to get that boat certified by the Coast Guard as a sail training vessel, the Coast Guard made them jump through all kinds of hoops. They could not fathom that there was an observable window. It wasn't opening, obviously, but it was bolted. It was like a Lexan, a clear, polycarbonate on the bottom of the hull, so that they could see this. And they did eventually get it approved, but the Coast Guard just couldn't fathom why you would have a visual in the bottom of the hull. And windows in the side of the hull are kind of similar, right? They're not under the waterline, but they don't make a lot of sense from a structural point of view. I also have some kind of personal experience with water coming into boats in heavy sailing. I was very lucky at the age of 20 to take over the commission of a 47-foot Alden ketch in New York City by the name of Robin Hood that I was on for several years. And the second year, 1981, I just turned 21. We took the boat out to Bermuda on our way down to the British Virgin Islands for the winter. And I had a couple of tough New York, Breezy Point Irish guys on the boat. And one of them was horrendously seasick, and he was confined to his bunk. He just couldn't move. And he had opened up an opening port light, a porthole in the head, like an old-fashioned bronze heavy-duty thing. and he'd open it up to get some airflow through the aft cabin. It's a center cockpit boat. Unbeknownst to me, and I was standing at the nav station, which was on the starboard side. This is on the porthole was on the port side, and a wave hit the boat, and the hydraulic pressure of that wave through a port light that was 12 inches long and maybe 3 to 4 inches tall, an oval kind of shape. The hydraulic pressure on that was so powerful from one wave that it blew open the head door, almost blew it off its hinges. And immediately I was standing in what felt like 100 gallons of water. It might have been more, actually. It was a huge amount of water from a single wave going through a very small space. Very fortunately, before we took the boat offshore to Bermuda, I'd insisted that the owners allow me to build Lexan storm windows for the very large main saloon windows in this boat, and they allowed me to at some considerable expense, and so we didn't have any problems with the main large windows, but thank God, because if that wave had hit midships, they easily would have taken those windows out. We could have ended up shipping thousands of gallons of water perhaps. But interestingly, the waves certainly can do a lot of damage on the windward side of a boat as they hit hard like that. But most stoved-in port lights, windows, etc., happen on the leeward side as the boat is flung into the seas and the weight of the boat is actually pressing down into the water. That's more typically where you see stoved-in windows and water ingress as a result of that. But say fortunately on Robin Hood, the large windows have been protected with Lexan bulletproof, quite literally, polycarbonate storm windows. But that one porthole had been open, and as I said, a very large amount of water came through. So any window is a risk. My boat, I forgot the name of it, Aqua Libra, has lots of opening ports. I've actually sealed most of them, all of them in the main saloon. We leave them open, or at least able to be opened, in the heads. But that's it. I actually sealed them tight because over years the seals dried out and they become a little leaky. That was the primary reason for doing it. But I don't love that they're there, honestly. I don't think it's worth going to the extent of glassing over windows if you've got them in your hull already. I doubt that it's worth doing that unless they're as badly leaky as Patrick's. But as I said, the naval architect is not doing it because they need to be there from a structural point of view or from a sailing point of view. And if a lot of your sailing is done offshore, maybe it is worth glassing them over. But my philosophy is, the fewer the better. A lot of racing boats that I've raced on have 0 windows in them at all. That might be a little claustrophobic. It's nice to get some air down in the boat, but yeah, from a naval architectural point of view, it's a concession to the market and the marketing of the boat for the sailability of the boat, the sellability of the boat, not the sailability of the boat, if that makes any sense. So, Turnip, I hope that helps. That's my view on windows. The fewer the better.